Should the Miami Heat trade for Trae Young if they cannot make a deal with the Cleveland Cavaliers for Donovan Mitchell? Happy Sunday, Heat fans. This is the Heat Report by Chat Sports. I am Nic Rohloff. It's an intriguing topic to talk about, and Trae Young is a very polarizing player, and I do want to talk about how he would fit with Miami and what he would cost, and if Miami should make this move, if no Spida. But before we do dive into Mr. Trae Young, make sure you are helping us out by sharing today's video. Want to make this the largest Heat YouTube channel there is so we could have more fun on game days in the winter when Heat basketball returns. So help me out by sharing today's video. Click the share button, select Twitter/X, and then click post to Twitter/X. Do your part. Make this the largest Heat YouTube channel on the planet. I will say this, and some of you might come out here and say, no Trae Young is possible. It's not going to happen. I actually think it's one of the more realistic options, at least more attainable all-star caliber players for Miami to get if they strike out on Donovan Mitchell. And you might ask yourself, well, why would the Hawks trade him to the Heat? That doesn't make any sense. Well, the Hawks have actually been rumored to wanting to split up the DeJounte Murray-Trae backcourt. Just go back to last trade deadline during the season when we were talking about DeJounte Murray almost every single video because the Heat needed a point guard and the Hawks were about to deal him. But now it feels like the momentum has shifted in Atlanta, and they actually might look to push out Trae Young and keep DeJounte Murray. One thing is clear. They are not going to be on the same team next year in all likelihood. They're going to keep one of them alongside Jalen Johnson and DeAndre Hunter, and then they obviously get the first overall pick, who they're likely going to take Alex Sarr. And if they do that, they're going to have quite the good young core. The question is it going to be Trae Young or DeJounte Murray being the leading guard? I would still bet that they keep DeJounte Murray. I also think Trae Young would be a cheap-ish trade for an all-star. I don't think he's going to cost you Jovic, Jaquez, Hero, 2 first-round picks. He's going to cost you some combination of those 5 things I just mentioned, but it's not going to take all 5 like a Donovan Mitchell trade package would. Young is one of the better young offensive players in the NBA who just is a walking 25-9. I mean, over the last 4 seasons, he has averaged 25 points or more every single season while averaging at minimum 9.4 assists. Now, the only thing that I do want to mention with Trae Young, because a lot of people assume he's an elite three-point shooter, and I get that sentiment because he pulls from 35 feet and makes some ridiculously tough threes, but he's a volume three-point shooter. He's not the most efficient, as you see on screen, alternating 34, 38, 33, 37% from beyond the arc. He is a good three-point shooter, but I do think he needs to become more efficient in that area of his game, which might happen if he were to be paired up with a couple of guys that can create their own shot like Bam and Jimmy can, because in Atlanta, he's been having to do everything by himself. As we talk more about number 11 from Atlanta in today's video, I want to get a quick temperature check where you guys are. Would you trade for Trae Young? Type Y for yes or type N for no. I'll let you know, Heat fans, my answer is coming up in just a bit. I don't want to spoil it right now. I want to go through some more statistics, his potential fit in Miami, and what it would cost the Heat and Pat Riley to get this deal done. But first, what do I always say about Heat players in terms of trading for them? They need to be able to perform in the postseason because the Heat always have that aspirations to be playing in the brightest lights when the moments get the toughest. And Trae Young, in his playoff career, has been interesting. He had a really phenomenal run his first ever time in the postseason. Makes the playoffs for the first time, takes the Hawks to the Eastern Conference Finals before they came up short against the Milwaukee Bucks. They defeated the New York Knicks and Philadelphia 76ers in the first 2 rounds. He averaged 28.8 points per game and 9.5 assists during that run. The efficiency isn't great, but like I said, he's a volume guy. The following year, they match up with the 1-seeded Miami Heat. We know how that went. The Heat won in 5 games and absolutely bottled up Trae Young, which showcased some of his struggles in the postseason when you get physical wing defenders on him like a Caleb Martin did, like a Haywood Highsmith did at times. He does struggle a little bit when physical guys get on him. And then he did bounce back in the following year against the Boston Celtics. The Hawks only lost in 6 games, but he put up great numbers in that series, man. 29 points and 10 assists. But what do these statistics tell me? He has been a volume scorer in the regular season, but as well as the postseason. Is he able to limit his shot attempts and still give you the same productivity? That is a serious question that we have to ask surrounding Trae Young because his usage rate is amongst the highest in the entire NBA playing for the Atlanta Hawks. The ball is always in his hands. Now, it would be in his hands potentially with the Miami Heat quite a bit as well, as he would initiate the offense, run pick and rolls with Bam. Honestly, he might run some pick and rolls with Jimmy as well in this potential fit. But could he lessen his usage rate and keep those numbers still the same by being more efficient? That's a question we'll have to ask, and I'll answer here in just a second. But make sure you are subscribed to the channel because we're going to have you covered with the latest surrounding the Miami Heat, whether it be news, trade rumors, draft rumors. We will have it all on the channel. We just passed 11K subscribers this week. Shout out to you guys for helping us out. But it's now time to get up to 12K. Let's get there soon. All right, let's look at the advanced shooting numbers of Trae Young from this past season where he played in just about 55 games for the Atlanta Hawks. He's not the best finisher at the rim. He does have that little 8 to 10 foot float shot where most of his shots within 10 feet come, shooting 5.9 attempts a night and only 49.7%. That's not that good for that close to the rim, but he does have that floater game. Now, finishing at the rim when he gets all the way to the rack and big men are contesting him, not so much. The pull-up midi is pretty solid at 45.5%. The pull-up three and catch-and-shoot three is very fascinating to me because he shot 37% from the pull-up three margin, and he took 6.5 threes a game in that kind of area, right? So that is amongst the highest in the NBA. I mean, 6.5 threes off the dribble is pretty high. And then he didn't take that many catch and shoot, only 2, but he's knocked them down at 39%. So he is someone who shoots off the dribble. But what am I also going to pull away from these statistics of Trae Young? Is that he's not as effective as a 3-level scorer as some people might make him out to be. He is a 2-level scorer, if you ask me. He does most of his damage from the free throw line out. You are not going to see him attack the rim and get to the rim and slither through the defense and finish that often. That is just not the case. He's obviously not going to finish with authority either because he can barely dunk in a wide open transition opportunity. So he does most of his damage from the 15 feet beyond, which is fine because that would fit with Miami because Jimmy and Bam do their damage 15 feet and in. So the fit wouldn't be okay, but it does concern me. And something that I've wanted for the Miami Heat is a guard that can get to the rim and put pressure on the opposing defense's front line to have to bring the defense in, and then you could kick it out for other three-point shooters. So that is something we have to keep our eye out for. Another thing about Trae Young is his ability to shoot the ball from really anywhere. He is plotted as like this Steph Curry type where he could just launch it from 30 plus and knock it down with ease. Well, that's not really the case. Last season, he took 77 shots from 30 feet plus and only made 23 of them, which equates to a 29.8% mark. Now, it's better than others, that's for sure, but it's still not the most efficient shot. And there was about 12 of them that came from 35 plus, so some of those might be end of the shot clock or end of the quarter or just heaves. But the fact remains, he shoots the ball from 30-plus feet a lot. And is that the best shot? Probably not. And if he did come to Miami, I'm not going to try to take that away from his game because it's part of his game and what makes opposing defenders have to come out to him that far, which allows space for others. But probably not going to want Trae Young to launch the ball from 30 feet plus all that often. More on Young, including my trade package and what I would do surrounding Young in just a second. But make sure you do get these Heat polos before they run out of stock at chatsports.com/Heat polo. Nice, slick red polo here. You can wear it out to dinner. You can wear it to the course. You can wear it to the game. You can wear them on Sundays. You can wear them anytime. And we only have smalls, larges, mediums, and extra larges in stock right now. So get yours before they run out. Chatsports.com/Heat polo. Links in the description and comments of the video. I said earlier that Trae Young would be cheap-ish. This is probably what I think a trade would cost to get Ice Trae from ATL. You would cost you Hero, and you don't want Hero and Trae alongside each other either way, but you need that big-time $30 million salary that Tyler Hero has. I also attached Duncan Robinson, who's getting paid $18 million this season, which is $48 million leaving the books for Miami. Now, Trae Young's contract is $43 million, so you actually get Trae Young and net $5 million, which would actually bring you really damn close to being underneath the first apron, which would allow you more flexibility going into free agency if this deal happened prior to free agency getting started. I think you would also have to attach 2 first-round picks, whoever you pick 15th in this draft, and then the 2030 first-round pick, which would only allow Miami to have very limited first-round picks to move going forward. But you would assume Trae Young is your big move that you'd make to finish out this Jimmy Butler build and have a point guard of a future alongside Bam post Jimmy Butler. And when you think of how you can construct this roster, if you make this deal with the Atlanta Hawks, you'd get to keep Jaime Jaquez Jr. and Nikola Jovic, which I know a lot of Heat fans want to do. And if I could get a all-star type player while keeping Jovic and Jaquez, I would be quite fond of that deal. And if you get Trae Young in that hypothetical move, we'll talk about what you do with Terry Rozier after this little question I'm going to ask you, but you get a lot of options with having Jaquez come off the bench and keeping Jovic as that starting four next to Bam. But the question is, would you do this trade? That is what I want to ask y'all down in the comment section. We are a democracy here at the channel. It's not like we are actually deciding what we do, but I do want to know what you think on this potential Trae Young trade. Type A for accept or type D for decline. The awaited answer that I promised I was going to give you, I would trade for Trae Young if no Donovan Mitchell. We have documented it quite a lot on the channel that I just don't think you could run it back with this current constructed core, and it would just be a waste of everybody's time. You can't go into a sixth season with Jimmy, Bam, and Tyler. So use Tyler Hero, use a couple first-round picks to get an all-star player that has all-NBA type potential if he's able to improve on the margins defensively and get more efficient on the offensive side of the floor, and you have a stud point guard to help Jimmy and Bam on the offensive end. And yes, I do want to branch in the defense because we've just only talked about the offense today, which is fine, but we do have to acknowledge that he's not the best defender. But to be fair, I mean, Tyler Hero and Terry Rozier aren't the best defenders either, and those are your two starting backcourt members right now. And I heard this term be used on 5 Reasons Sports Network, so shout out to them, and I wanted to kind of use it myself. But Trae Young would become an innings eater on the offensive end. What does that mean exactly? Well, during the 82-game regular season, Trae Young can shoulder most of the offense and take on the most pressure when teams are sending doubles at you, and he's the guy that gets the offense rolling, which would allow Jimmy Butler to really transition into a third option on the Heat's offense, which would preserve his energy and allow him to be that number one elite two-way player he can be in the NBA postseason. So you work with more of a Trae Young-Bam duo with Jimmy as your 3, the young guys as well. And that is a team that could be a top 4, top 3 team in the Eastern Conference. And when the playoffs roll around and Jimmy gets back to his locked-in mode, now you have a really solid team ready to go. And I know the big elephant in the room is, well, what would you do with Terry Rozier? Does he become your 6th man? Do you move Jaime Jaquez Jr. to shooting guard to play alongside Jovic, Bam, and Jimmy in this hypothetical situation? No, I actually think you would trade Terry Rozier, keep Jaquez as your 6th man, and get a 3-and-D shooting guard to pair up with Trae Young as a defensive guy in the backcourt, and maybe get another guy off the bench that can be a wing defender and be an athletic dude coming off Eric Spoelstra's bench, or you could just get a couple picks to go trade for those guys. So you would probably move Terry Rozier in this deal, which I am fine with because you get Trae Young, a couple other assets, and all you do is move off Duncan, Tyler, and Terry with a couple of your own first-round picks. All right, that's going to do it for today's video. The conversation keeps on going on my social media. At Nic_Rohloff is the handle on Twitter. Like I said on Friday's video, if we get to 1,000 followers by Monday, I am taking a beer bong on Monday's show. Well, guess what? It is Sunday, so get the last chances down. I don't even know what the fuck I'm saying, but either way, last chance to follow me on Twitter. That's what I'm going to say. I'll see you tomorrow. Go Heat.